The largest homeless encampment in New Jersey is a mile from downtown Lakewood. In these woods, a tent city has existed in some form for around 7 years and is currently home to between 80 and 125 people. While the population of Tent City has fluctuated during that time, the town of Lakewood has grown by over 30,000 residents, largely due to the influx of Orthodox Jews. Their growing clout and dominance over the township has spurred an ongoing struggle between the residents of Tent City and the township administration over gentrification and housing rights in Lakewood.
Lakewood has a very wide array of people. We have African Americans, a large Jewish community, a large Hispanic community. At last census count in 2010, there were 93,000 and change, and by now we should be over 100,000. Lakewood's not a typical situation. I mean, part of the reason for all the growth is because we have the rabbinical college here that people from all over the country gravitate to. It's not a typical situation. You won't find it in any town USA where Jewish residents come in droves. There are various religions here, but we have a nice harmony in Lakewood. Tent City is a small encampment about roughly a mile or so from the downtown. Recently it expanded, and in the last 5 years it's been on the forefront because more and more people started coming. There were roughly 50 residents in 2007, and then the township had a large placement effort, and it dwindled down to about 10 people. And then over the last couple of years, more and more people started moving. We're at about approximately 125 right now.
It's an extremely diverse community, about 20% female, racially diverse, culturally diverse. It is a community, and at first view of Tent City, you might not think that's something special, but it really is. When it comes to looking at how America handles homelessness, or how the average homeless person lives, or what the average shelter looks like across America, just basically warehousing people to meet their basic physical need. No, not really addressing the emotional needs of people, the need of community, the need of belonging, the need of purpose is almost totally absent from the shelter system of America.
The township doesn't provide a shelter, and this angers Tent City advocates who feel that the large housing developments going up in Lakewood exclude non-Orthodox members of the community.
The cost of living out here, is extremely high. And what I've seen Lakewood going through is less and less diverse, and more segregated, more and more, a monolithic town, and that, it's one community that's controlling, the town.
Orthodox community members dismiss this as a myth, stemming from the fact that Orthodox residents are the majority in Lakewood. Still, the perception is widespread.
There is a definite perception that because the power essentially, whether it's in the schools, whether it's in the township, that in every segment of the society, the most important decisions are being made by this majority group. And of course, they need to look out for their own people, but not at the expense of the others, because this is not just their community. We have an opportunity over here to really become a role model, that it is so easy to do. The poor are really not looking for too much. They just need to be recognized. It is possible to do it, but the political will is missing, not just in the township, but also in the county. And I'm pretty certain whoever is sat in leadership would do essentially what they're doing, because, the county government isn't Jewish, isn't Orthodox.
The town administration, as well as some community activists, point out that homelessness exists throughout New Jersey, and that policies to place individuals could also come from the county or the state levels.
It's not a Lakewood problem, and it's not a county problem, but I think that it's a state problem, and maybe you might want to look beyond the state problem because you got people coming from out of state here, and I think that the governor needs to come in. There's not enough of housing, affordable housing. And when I say affordable, I'm not talking about, $1,600, $1,700 a month rent, but I'm talking about affordable, that the people that live here and work in this community that's able to afford it. It's not enough of that. And I think that temporary housing is better than being out in the woods. And if you got temporary housing, it gives us an opportunity, especially on our end, to try to fight to help get into that permanent housing. But you need to start somewhere. You can't, stay in the woods and say, well, I'm not going to accept, temporary housing. Let's get into the temporary housing and let's work from there. It's better to work from there than to work from being out in the woods.
I do the majority of the cooking out here for them. When we get a supply in, I might cook, for around a good at least 60 to 70 other people here and everything. I'm like the camp's main cook. I just got off of work and I was coming in and I saw like around 10 Orthodox teenagers, and they asked me if I lived here, and I said yes. And they were wondering if it was safe, if they can walk through here. I said yes. And they said, well, the paper said, it's dangerous, this and that. I'm like, don't believe that. You need to come find out for yourself. So I took them around, and they saw, that was fairly neat. The hygiene was nice. And I showed them a few tents and huts. And they were surprised at how clean they were and how hot they were and everything, right? I'm like, it's not what everybody's thinking it is, that we just living wild out here, This is like a little small community inside of a community who's trying to survive. And yes, we do have our bad apples, just like any other place. Don't judge us until you walked up in our shoes.
For now, Tent City isn't going anywhere. A court order is protecting the encampment from demolition, at least until the township can offer other substantive options.
We're trying to set up a sort of task force in conjunction with the county so we can know exactly what we can offer. It's going to include some township-sponsored programs and some private individuals who can actually place some of them in fairly decent facilities. There are advocates out there that say just back off, leave them be. And I recently told someone that I'll discuss with them the idea of just totally leaving it alone. When they're willing to sign on a piece of paper that heaven forbid there's a fire and 125 people get killed, that the blood's on their hands. So I could show that paper to the press the day after a fire.
Again, people would rather not be out in the cold. They'd rather be inside, but there's just no options. There's just no possibility. We don't want to take a temporary Band-Aid measure. We'll wait here until we get that shelter that's a humane shelter, that's a progressive shelter, that's truly a shelter that will meet the needs, the total needs of the homeless. We'll wait for that.